Yo, what is going on, guys? Today, I have a video going through a tier list of what I think to be the best guns in Apex Legends. I went ahead and I created a ping file of just a tier list that I created in Photoshop. I will provide a link and I'll throw up a picture of it right now. And I'll provide a link to the picture as well in the description. So if you want to check that out, go ahead and hit that link, and then you can view the tier list and you can share it or whatever. In this video, I'm basically going to go over not only what I think the tier list is, but my personal opinions obviously are going to be in this, and what I think are the best guns and what guns you should be using in order to maximize your wins and damage output in game. So starting off, we'll just go from the top down. Right, as you can see from the tier list, we have the S+, A, B, C, and then the meme range. We'll start with S+. Two of what I think to be the most overpowered, or not even overpowered, just strong guns right now, have got to be the Mastiff and the Spitfire. You might be asking yourself why I put the Spitfire over the Wingman, or maybe some of the other heavy guns. Right now, I think with the current attachments, and even without any attachments, the Spitfire has great accuracy. It's not the best, but you're still able to hit your targets from especially close to medium range. You're able just to spray people down. And starting off with 35 bullets on a medium gun, where it does 20 damage per shot, you just are able to melt people with this gun. Once you start adding attachments and everything else, it just makes this gun even better. So once you are able to get a barrel stabilizer, a stock, a sight that you would enjoy, and everything else, this gun just becomes incredibly powerful. Of course, with the Mastiff, we all know that this is the best shotgun in the game. I just think the fact that you're able to hit once, like as you saw there, 162 headshots, 108 from this range. I'm not even aiming down sights or anything, and I'm still just able to hit 200 plus headshots at this range. It's ridiculous. The Mastiff is super strong, which is why it's a legendary weapon, so rightfully so. Looking at the S+ tier, one of the differences that you might argue is between the Eva and the Peacekeeper. So, but with these two shotguns, the reason I put the Peacekeeper above the Eva, my bad, is just because of the potential. So they're both known to have kind of weaker hit numbers whenever you're not able to hit all of the shots. So especially with, I think the Eva hits 7s and the Peacekeeper hits 10s, if I'm not mistaken, if you only hit like 1 or something like that. The difference is that the Peacekeeper's damage output per shot is a lot higher. Being able to hit 100 damage shots to people's chest is just incredible. And I think with the current style of the game, where it's more of you shoot and then you can kind of move, this gun, especially personal preference, just fits my playstyle way more. The Eva is still really good, and I still pick it up time to time. Sometimes if I'm not feeling my aim on a certain day, I can find more success with the Eva than I can with the Peacekeeper, just because you're able to output more damage. So I definitely put these two closer, but I felt like it was just needed to pick what I thought was the best shotgun, and that's what I did here. Going on to the S+ tier, we also have the R301, which if you know anything about this gun, then you know that it is one of the best guns in the game right now. It's the most consistent. It doesn't need attachments in order to be good. It uses light ammo, so you're able to find all of the ammo for it, like everything that you need. And once you start getting attachments, this gun just becomes a laser. Without any recoil control, I'll just hold it here. It just goes, it's just straight up and then kind of a left to right. So if you're able to manage that, you're able just to keep that right on target. It does about 250 damage per magazine without any other attachments. And it's just super accurate, has good sights. This gun is all around the best gun. What I think to be the best gun in the game right now. It's the most consistent by far, and you're just able to just melt people with this. Moving on to the A tier, one surprising gun that you might see here is the Wingman. I am still a huge fan of the Wingman and still love picking this gun up and using it 90% of the time. A lot of this tier list I based it off of if the gun needed attachments, if the gun was reliable, and if the gun was readily available. So of course, even though the Mastiff is hard to come by in the game, or more difficult to come by than some of these floor drop guns, I still just find it to be the most overpowered shotgun. And with the Wingman, with the nerf to its shot, like how fast you can shoot this gun, it definitely like saw some downplay. And I think just all the nerfs that's received since the beginning of, or since the start of Season 1, so every nerf that it acquired before that, I think it just brought it down just one tier. This gun is still really strong and should definitely be picked up. It definitely requires a little bit more precision, so if your aim isn't the best, then obviously I don't recommend using something like this. 6 shots is enough to definitely get the kills, but if you're not able to hit the shots, then you won't really see any success with it. Moving on into the A tier, you'll see that I put the Craver here as well. Why did I put the Craver? I don't think highly of the sniper rifles in this game. So, especially with the Craver, I feel that although it's a very powerful gun, and even if you're able to hit your shots, hitting a 125 body shot is just incredible. But you need to understand that with this gun, you're giving up something that on your 2 guns, you're giving up a gun that could either output more damage without the need for accuracy or predicting where people are going to go, and you can output just the same amount of damage. So you're able to not only do the 125, maybe not in one shot, but as you're just playing the game, you'll be able to deal 125 with like a magazine of the R301, or if you're able to hit your wingman shots, or even the shotguns. There's just the snipers in this game, I think, are a little bit underwhelming and a little bit left to desire. I'm not really sure if it has to deal with maybe how the game is played, how it's so fast-paced, but a lot of the snipers I just don't think highly of. Not that they're not good. I think there's just other guns that do what the snipers do, but just better, straight up better. So that's why the Craver's here on the A tier. It's not the worst gun, it's not the best gun, but I definitely think highly of it, and I think it still deserves that upper tier spot. One gun that you guys might be surprised, and this is where kind of the attachments come into play, the R99 here. So the reason why the R99 is actually what I believe to be an A tier gun instead of an S plus tier, which I'm sure a lot of you will think that it's that S plus tier, is just because of the need for ammo and attachments. So this gun with 18 bullets can definitely dish out a lot of damage. I think, what does it do? Like 200? Yeah, 216 with a full magazine at 18, which is still insanely good. But in order to hitting all those shots with the recoil management and everything else, you're more likely to hit about 50 to 75% of your mag from medium range. Now, SMG wise, this is the best SMG in the game. So I think pairing this with like the R301 or something and just stacking up on this light ammo is a great tactic. You're able to not only have tons of ammo for this, but as you're going around slaying people, you're able to pick up attachments that are needed for this to make this gun even better. Off spawn, I think it's fantastic, which is why it's an A tier weapon. I just think that finding either the Spitfire, the R301, or the Peacekeeper, I think those guns are a little bit more useful, and that this gun is just a very high tier submachine gun. I definitely still think highly of it, but I just think there's some guns that do the same thing. Moving on, 2 guns that you actually surprised to see here is the Hemlock and the Havoc. The reason that these guns are on here is I like to think of them as, I think the Havoc is the best energy weapon in the game. I think that the damage output of it, the recoil management, and even if you don't have a turbocharger, this gun can still do massive damage. So although the turbocharger definitely makes it, and it definitely feels like whenever you don't have a Havoc, you're able to find turbochargers a lot more. I think the Havoc and the Hemlock are definitely 2 weapons that are a little bit underrated at this point in the game. The reason for the Hemlock, as I explained with the Havoc, is I think that although this isn't the best early game weapon, I think mid to late game, this gun will definitely start seeing more play. I think putting this gun in semi whenever you're using that is just incredible. As long as you're able to keep your trigger finger up, you're able to dish out the damage, and there's literally no recoil whenever it comes to it. So as long as you're able to keep on target, you're able to ping all of your enemies with no problems. I know the Hemlock is really good in burst fire mode, I think in the early game. As you can see there's no attachments on it, and it's still not unmanageable. But I think in the early game, it's a little bit easier to kind of use with that 3 burst. And then once I think you start getting into medium range fights, I think using the semi is a lot better. You're able to dip out and dip back in and everything else. So that about does it for the A tier. Moving on to the next 2 tiers. These are guns that I personally I'm not fond of. If I find them, sometimes I'll use them just for the heck of it, just because I haven't used them in a while. Starting off, and I'm not going to go through and individually explain. I think some of these are a little bit self-explanatory. We'll start off with the Longbow. As I've said before, I already don't think super highly of the snipers. You can disagree with me. I just think that Longbow does, the Wingman can do better. So although this gun bodies for 55, the Wingman bodies for 45, but you're also able to shoot it a lot quicker. So with that Wingman, I just think that the Wingman is basically a sniper, and that the Longbow doesn't really have a spot. It's not unusable and it's not terrible to use, but I just think that there's a gun that just does what the Longbow does, but just better. And that's my reason for putting it lower on this tier list. Moving on, if you have the tier list up, you can see I put the Devotion next on here. The reason for this is, although I think the LMGs in this game, both the Spitfire and the Devotion, are both really good, the only reason I put the Devotion down here is because of the charge up time on it. I think that whenever you're in a gunfight, it definitely limits you because you want to take some shots and try and hide behind cover, whatever, so you have to keep charging up. But also, the problem with the Devotion is I feel like whenever I use it, I go through energy ammo a lot quicker than whenever I use the Havoc. The reason for that is I think whenever I play with the LMGs, I feel like I need to spray a little bit more. So I use a lot more bullets than what it's needed, and that charge up time definitely like hurts whenever you're trying to slay out. So not only does that make it a lower tier weapon, I think the Devotion is really good. And even with the buffs to the energy ammo in the game, I just think that it's just not a top tier weapon yet. I think there might need to be a couple more changes, maybe lowering the ramp up time or something else. But I think overall, the Devotion is a really good weapon. I just think it's on the lower side. Moving on, we have the Flatline and the Triple Take. I'll talk about the Triple Take while I'm picking up the Flatline. So the Triple Take is definitely another energy weapon, and it's a sniper. It kind of has similar problems as other energy weapons, as ammo can be hard to find. It's not entirely not useful. I think that it's an interesting weapon. I think once you're able to get the attachment that makes your 3 shots into 1 shot definitely makes this gun a lot better. I definitely find that for a sniper, for the speed and for the ammo, I think this gun just is outclassed by other weapons. Whenever it's a little underwhelming bodying people for only 60 damage, especially how bullet spongy this game is. So I definitely like weapons where I'm able to put out the most damage, and with this gun I just don't feel like I can do that. It has a little bit faster fire rate than that of the Longbow, but I just think that the Triple Take still leaves more to be desired whenever I use it. Moving on to the Flatline, I don't think very highly of this weapon. If you want some tips for using this, definitely burst fire with this. I find I seem to have more success whenever I do that than trying to full auto people. The recoil is pretty unbearable, especially it's easier whenever you're hitting these bigger targets, but it's something that you definitely have to work on controlling to try and get all your shots to hit, which is annoying for me whenever I'm facing other people who don't have to do that. So getting a barrel stabilizer on this gun can definitely be a good thing, but I also think that using this gun as more of as a submachine gun, I seem to have more success with. The hip fire on it seems to be very good, so that's typically how I use it. Early game or anything else, about close to medium range, if you just hip fire with this weapon, I have pretty good success with it. I'd stay away from using the sights unless you're getting to that medium longer range. Moving on to the final gun in the B tier, we have the Prowler. The reason I put the Prowler down here is I feel like burst weapons in this game are just not my favorite thing. So I don't know if it has to deal with the DPS or if it has to deal with this gun only having 20 bullets off the bat, but I think with what this gun does and what other heavy guns do with the attachments, with the same attachments, I just think the Prowler is just a little bit on the lower side. Whenever you get this thing full auto and you're able to get a blue or even just a gray extended mag, you're able to just shred people with this. And even now, it's not unbearable to control. I just think that there's other weapons that are able to do what the Prowler does just better, which is why I put this low on the tier list. Personally, I never really pick up the Prowler. I find it hard to find the select fire whenever I need it. I'd rather use a Wingman, an R301, an R99, some of those higher tier weapons, or even the Spitfire, or even the Hemlock instead of the Prowler. I think they do similar things. They use the same bullets, but you're able just to get more done with it, which is why I put it on the beard tier. Moving on to the C tier. One gun which I haven't talked about yet, and I try to never talk about, is the G7 Scout. The reason for this is I really do not like this gun. I don't know what it is about it. I am just not a fan. Whenever the game first released, I thought this gun was going to be busted, and I thought this gun was broken, but come to find out that I think a DMR that has the speed that this gun fires, the ammo that it uses, and the damage that it outputs, I think it's just not my favorite. So even with hitting all 10 shots, you have to shoot slower. It only does 300 damage, and what does it do per shot? 30 damage per shot. I just think this is the same problem that I've had with the other snipers, and why they're so low on the tier list is I love sniping, and I hope they do something to the snipers, or there's maybe a meta change or something where carrying a sniper and then an AR is kind of the standard. But until that point happens, I just think the DMRs, the snipers in this game, just are so underwhelming. I think there's so much that they can add to it that would make it way better. And the G7 is similar to the other snipers. I just think the fact that it uses the light ammo, the fast fact that it shoots really slow, it just brings it down, and I think that's why it's so low on my tier list. For the final two guns, we have two more light ammo guns. We have the alternator and the RE45. I will go ahead and put on record that as of season 1, I will always pick the RE45 over the alternator. I know there's some people that I watch that say they don't have a problem with the alternator. I personally have never had a good experience with the alternator. I think it shoots too slow. I think its damage output just is not good, and I think that even though the RE45 per magazine does less than the alternator, I have more success with the RE45. I don't know if it's the sight, I don't know if it's the recoil, I just, there's something about the alternator that rubs me the wrong way, which is why it's so low on this tier list. Again, this tier list is all personal, so if you have any cases to bring up against me, this will probably be one of them, just because I know some people will say that they like the alternator more than the RE45. This is all just personal preference, and I personally like the RE45. I think it's a lot better, but both of these guns are pretty underwhelming. They don't do anything super well. The RE45 has decent hip fire, the alternator kind of the same thing. I find more success with the alternator whenever I hip fire, similar to that of the Flatline. So I find that whenever I am using the alternator, it's definitely an early game weapon, and then I try to drop it as quick as possible. Moving on to the final tier list, what we have here is the meme tier. And yes, instead of using another letter, I went ahead and used meme because that's what these guns are. What we have is the Mozambique and the P2020. These two guns, I think, are the absolute worst guns in the game. I will also go ahead and put on record again, just because most of this tier list can be interchangeable. Most of the A tier guns, I will switch interchangeably. I'll use them about the same. Most of the B tier, same thing. It's the C and meme tier that whenever I start putting actual guns over each other. Mozambique is better than the P2020. I think the fact that this pistol, I understand that it's a handgun. I just think there's no place for it in this game. I understand why they keep it in the game. Obviously, if they only had OP weapons at the start, then this game would be a lot less fun. Having these fun weapons to use every once in a while is a good change of pace. Same thing with the Mozambique. It's just the worst shotgun. Everyone knows the Mozambique meme, but I definitely think that using the Mozambique as an actual shotgun and being able to get close and hit those 45s, if you're able to hit your shots, you can actually deal some decent damage with the Mozambique. The problem what limits it is the magazine. Only being able to hold 3 shots definitely makes this gun a little bad taste in your mouth after using it, just because you feel like you can almost kill people, but then you have to reload and you're never able to get quite that extra damage off. With the P2020 only dealing 12 shots per shot, I think even whenever you're spamming this thing, it just feels like you're hitting them with, it feels like you're an airbender almost. You're just hitting them with just Nerf bullets or something like that. It just isn't very good. So that's my tier list. I would love it if you guys would start a conversation on what you think, what guns deserve to be higher or lower tier, what you guys think. You can go ahead and we can have a conversation in the bottom below, and maybe you guys can convince me. I know some of the guns that people are definitely going to try and argue with me over are the Hemlock and the Havoc. I think people don't think highly of them. I think they should give them another chance. I just think with I've been able to put enough games in with the Havoc. I think it's something that even without attachments, you're still able to be pretty successful with, and I just think the energy ammo is what limits it, but I think it's a very good weapon. And with the Hemlock, I've always been a fan of single fire weapons, and the fact that you're able to spam that weapon is perfect. So go ahead and let me know what you guys think, or what you agree with and what you disagree with in the tier list below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.